I have been assigned a topic. They didn't ask me what will you speak on. It has been intuitively put on the problem of caste, and it is about the problem of caste. All the speakers speak. You see, it is there's nothing very special about me talking about the problem of caste. But the second he added a little bit, and it's a solution. I mean, how do you? Nobody thinks of a solution to caste these days. Caste will be with us forever. Caste is a Sanatan entity. I mean, it is on that basis most of our politics and political thinking, social thinking go on. If someone talks about solving the problem of caste, he is an idealist, he is a bit cranky, and very impractical fellow and all that kind of thing. But in spite of all that, I have been insisting that I think on how to solve this problem of caste. My basic insight is the problem of caste is only peculiar to India. And that is what our nationalists, so-called nationalist group of people are saying, that India is a unique country. And if we also accept that caste will not go and we will have to live with caste, we are also agreeing that all your theories, we have been doing Marxist theory, this theory, that theory and all that, no theory will work here. You have to only accommodations with the other castes and claim some parity in enjoying the benefits of the state and its privileges. But this has been bothering me. Why is it, are we not the same human beings like anywhere else? And why is it that we seem to cling? And it is also said that all India is casteist. You see? And there is no difference. Everybody from top to bottom is equally casteist. And from 5,000 years back till now, it is all caste. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari and Kutch to Bengal, everything is casteist. Now, this essentialization, as several authors have said before me, we are also reinforcing the same, saying that we will, anyway caste will remain, I want a better position within the caste. And my several years of effort has been to show, to begin with the idea that there was no caste in India. Both in the sense of Varna and in the sense of Jati. Both in the sense of Varna and Jati. There was no Varna, and this much all of us agree, and we sort of accepted that. And that is a basis now that is coming back from Harappa and Mohenjo-daro and all that, that there was no caste in the sense of Varna at one point in time in history. If it is a historical entry, then there should be a historical exit. You see? Not meta-historical, given natural kind of Indianness that we all wallow in caste. We all actually wallow in caste. Caste is a very, very bad thing. In fact, academics goes out of its way to prove caste is a very good thing. Caste is a very good thing. If there is, but for caste, where will we go? You see, where will we go? If somebody dies in our family, somebody gets married in a family, who will rally around you? You see? And then, castelessness confuses society. How? Imagine a footpath, somebody is coming from one direction and another is coming from the opposite direction. Who is to give way to whom? A conflict situation arises. If I'm clear about the coming fellow is a lower caste or an upper caste, I know the appropriate behavior for myself. These are all I am quoting actually senior academicians writing. And of course it is the zenith of ecological arrangement. And that's a textbook all of us read and repeat, MA students. Ecological pinnacle, caste. That means don't tell people don't go to the water sources. Water source will remain pure. Prohibit people from cutting down trees to build their houses, then the forest will remain. Blah, 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 and all that. So that our previous pre-modern arrangement is 100 times better than this modern, competitive, individualist, rapacious, conflict-oriented society. Our honorable, our senior professors and our ancestors, nationalists, could not imagine any other form of harmony and unity except the hierarchical and discriminatory ladder. Yeah. Well, although the entire world is thinking differently. It's not that there was some effort to understand Shudra and all that. This Aryan social organization had these three castes everywhere. The entire pre-modern Europe had castes that was known as estates or orders. Orders of the order of those who pray, that is church people. The order of those who protect the country, that is kings, nobles, warriors, and so on. And the order of people who serve like slaves, doing agriculture and so on. At the turn of the French Revolution, all these were obviously abolished. It was as bad as our caste. Not one man, one vote, one man, one worth. 10 votes of a serf will be equivalent to 1 vote of the knights and nobles. And 10 votes of the nobles and warriors is equivalent to 1 vote of a bishop, church bishop, and so on. And this is supposed to reflect the divine order of heaven. Heaven, the God the Father sits at the top of the thing, and then below angels, below beasts. So the divine order reproduces itself on the earth by hierarchy and so on. Which simply meant what we are saying, that we are trying to dig up Rig Veda, other Vedas and so on to find which is legitimizing hierarchy. Christianity legitimized the hierarchy by producing a divine hierarchy. You see? They went to this extent of saying that some theologians are supposed to have said that the serfs, the third order, they have no souls. You see? It's only the other two big groups have souls. That kind of thing. And they won't allow each other to touch each other. They should tie a rope around and all that, untouchability and all that. Of course, certainly it was not so elaborate as our masters here worked out. But it was the same. Transition to modernity demolished all that and then said 1 man, 1 vote, 1 worth for common to all. And that is a famous small booklet you should read. And it was written by an abbé, a bishop. The third estate. In India, we would have said Shudras and Ati-Shudras. In Germany, they said folk, the ordinary people. In France, they would have said serfs. In England, they would have said labor. You see, that is the pre-modern Europe and pre-modern India. This is the same thing. But at the transition to modernity, all these small identities and unequal identities were all abolished, and the democratic state was a response to these changes only. Individuals are respected, individuals are made culpable for any criminal activity and so on. So the modern state, the democratic state, is a reflection of something that has changed in society historically. I'm not saying that in all those countries everything is perfect. No. Ideologically, at least they were compelled to accept that all human beings are same. And their sameness should be respected. You see? Of course, then there are all the race problems, regional problems, and all kinds of problems are there. There's no doubt about that. But the acceptance in ideology of that understanding, and that is that reflects in the state, new kind of state that has come about, and the struggle to come nearer to the ideal is a marked characteristic of many of these countries. And you remember in Europe there were no nation states in the pre-modern times. Instead there was one whole Europe which was full of Christianity. There were only Christians. Christendom. It was called Christendom. Now with the emergence of modernity, all that Christendom itself broke, and they all became churches, national churches, French church, German churches, and so on and so forth. And the nation states became, and the churches also became national churches. You see? And earlier there was one two languages, Greek and Latin, which was the dominant, like Sanskrit we had the dominant language. And eventually all the serfs, folk people, ordinary masses and so on, they threw up this yoke, and then French, German and other languages emerged as a part of thing. This is the picture of a modern transition. We find in India directly the opposite. Directly the opposite. We were regional kingdoms, separated and divided and so on and so forth. But in transition to modernity, we were all became one. Instead of one huge entity becoming several nation states, several regional kingdoms were put together and sought to be made into a one nation state. We all had different languages of our own, and now we are all told, no, we have only one language, Sanskrit or Hindi. He said in India we have only one language but spoken and written differently. That unity subsumes all this. And in fact, from from kind of feudalistic and hierarchical state order, it became an egalitarian order. We were indeed better egalitarian before, and now we are all brought into strict hierarchy. Strict hierarchy. In fact, the 2,500 years ago, there was a bitter fight in the southeast part of our country within Buddhism and Brahmanism. What the advance we have made is, now this fight is all over the country. All over the country. And the hegemony of the dominance of this Brahmanical caste system is much more than 100 years ago. The myth perpetrated is, earlier we were all under the shackles of this feudal and very chauvinistic and a very kind of hierarchical mentality, and we are slowly emancipating ourselves, and the guys, we are sitting here as a specimens of such an emancipated individuals, and some more individuals should be emancipated from the villages. It's a village area, no? Rural, ignorant people. We are enlightened people. That's the educated of this country is spreading enlightenment to the villages and so on. On the contrary, actually what we have is, we are worse than the village people. Where is caste today? Caste today is right in our midst only. Our midst only. There is not I'm not denying there was a traditional caste relations, there were. But in the course of years, so much accommodation have been made among the different groups of people. There is a modus vivendi, a way of living has been worked out. These are all myths propagated as part of a social science training, early education and high school education and all that kind of thing. And it is within that framework we conduct now today anti-caste rhetoric. It is very important to remember that behind our anti-caste rhetoric, we had yesterday the whole day, and apart from that also our generalized academic rhetoric, there are so many givens. The way we entered into modernity, the British reading of how to read British rule, how to read nationalism, and what is sacred and what is not sacred. All these are unsaid and very often unconscious premises which we have internalized, absorbed and so on, and we have a small area left to us to struggle we want caste or not, and particularly mostly in our institutions about fair distribution of benefits to different castes. They completely said the triumph of Brahmanism as Ambedkar has put out is in our midst. In our midst. We have played ditto to everything. Everything. And then slowly, eventually we also feel the caste will not go, because we are also reinforcing caste. In some way or other we are reinforcing caste. And then we also claim that it is only Varna that Baba Sahib said to be annihilated, not the Jati. So concentrate all efforts on the Brahmin, Brahmanical and so on, and wallow in our own small little worlds, which has become increasingly rigid and also mutually antagonistic to one another and so on.